Special interview today with a new IFA president, Porus Kaka, first Indian nation to become the president of IFA as it celebrates its 75 years. So, special occasion on many counts. And outgoing IFA president, Manuel Tron, is also with us. Porus, I'll start with you. I think the first question is you're taking over at an extremely exciting as well as challenging time. My first question would be on BEPS. I think Manuel mentioned, and I'm going to come to him on that. He said that IFA will have to be very careful while deciding its role and part when it comes to BEPS. What are your first thoughts on this?
Well, I would completely agree with Manuel. I think IFA will continue to analyze and study BEPS. We've already done it extensively in this Congress. We will do it leading up to Prague next year. And it will be a platform that brings together those who are going to be implementing BEPS, those who are going to be affected by BEPS, and those who are going to be advising on BEPS. So I think it's a platform where the benefit of those who are going forward with BEPS can hear the other persons who are going to be affected by it.
Manuel, any thoughts? What's your personal opinion on this?
I think that, and Porus and I agree on this, that what is important is that IFA needs to be and remain out of the political discussion. We are not a political organization. We are a technical organization, and what we want is to go into the scientific aspect of it, the true consequences, the aspects of tax law, but not the political implications.
One of the cases which you were involved in, John, there, Supreme Court of India said double tax treaties at times are a necessary evil in a developing economy. In the Indian context, BEPS says double non-taxation is unacceptable. That's what Mr. in an interview an hour back. How are you going to reconcile both these extremes? What's the middle part?
Fortunately, I am not the one who has to reconcile this. This is for the Indian government to reconcile this. I think if they come to the conclusion that it's an evil and it's no longer necessary, I think they have ample structures, ample laws, and ample circulars that they can change or revoke. So I think this is a policy issue, and I think double non-taxation, especially in this context when you're talking about Mauritius, is a very conscious effort that has been allowed to remain. Now, whether it is good for India, not good for India, evil for India, is a policy view on which I have no comment. I have to just implement.
But do you think the middle part is something that will have to be
my personal view has always been that there is a huge reluctances, and I think justified reluctances of the FIIs who come to Mauritius to get involved in litigation to get decided tax disputes 5 years down the line when their investors or their P-note holders will no longer be available. But if you probably give them a clear, very small tax, I don't think they will say, no, we want zero tax, which is probably unacceptable. But I think if you give them a clear-cut structure, I'm not sure whether they will completely run away.
Yeah, my next question is on moral tax, for us. This is what you told us a few months back. You said that corporations should be reasonable and careful while devising tax planning schemes, while propounding the moral tax concept. Porus, indirectly, are you suggesting that the Westminster doctrine is dead?
No, not at all. Absolutely not. I think, again, it's not a question of doctrine. I think it's applied to each case on facts. No court has sort of blanketly approved of a transaction which is wholly artificial. But I think it depends on facts. And ultimately, again, it's for the legislature. You can kill the doctrine or change the doctrine by introducing a guard. Coming back to your moral rate, all I want to say is that even before BEPS, even before any of the issues on tax avoidance, I think when you are looking at tax planning, like everything, if you are too aggressive, you are going to run and have problems with public opinion. You're going to have problems with the courts when you're trying to convince them. So I think it would not be advisable. But still, it doesn't mean that you cannot have reasonable tax planning when planning your structures to reduce your tax liability.
Manuel, any thoughts on this? There's been a lot of discussion on these issues over the last few days.
Yeah, evidently there are. And something we cannot forget is that there is no a rule, generally speaking, that says that you have to choose for the most expensive alternative in the perspective of taxes. That is, there is always this economy of options in which you can design your business in the best possible way, and of course taxes is one of them. And as Porus was saying, to the extent you are not falling into mere artificial schemes or you are not inventing things, I mean, you should be able, taxpayers should be able to design their businesses in the manner they consider appropriate.
Perfect. Manuel, you're passing over the baton to Porus. Historic occasion that you're having the first Indian as the IFA president. What is the message that sends out?
I think the message is clear. IFA is truly an international organization. IFA is growing, IFA is expanding, is now working a lot on a regional basis. It's already happening in Latin America and on a constant basis. It's starting to happen also in Asia. So we're looking forward to that. I am so pleased about it because after more than 70 years of a group quite identified, we had first a Latin American and now we have an Indian president. I think it's a great news for IFA.
Okay. And Porus, what are the challenges? What are the role that you envisage for IFA in these times?
Well, I think certainly we need to grow IFA in Asia, and I think we need to get on board some of the larger countries like China, like Indonesia. India is already on board. And I think this Congress has been useful, especially for China, for them to see the platform and the neutral platform that IFA gives, which is, I think, a unique organization in this debate that goes on.
Yeah. What was my last question? India is going through a turbulent phase. We have the rupee at 68, 70 now, touching almost. The economy is going through some sort of a crisis, many would say. Many are comparing it to the mid-90s, the early 90s. What would be your advice to the Indian Finance Minister on the tax front? What needs to be done? You have so many tax litigations and many are blaming Vodafone, Shell, Nokia for many FIIs and foreign investors getting scared and running away. What would be your advice purely on the tax front to the Indian Finance Minister?
Well,
what needs to be done?
I think it's not, all I can say is that there must be thousands of reasons why the rupee is where it is. But certainly the big ticket headlines on the disputes don't help. And I think the greatest damage that we did was not to preserve the independence of our judiciary in 2012 with the retrospective. I think if we avoid that, there is a system where we'll settle disputes. I don't think we should just completely rubbish our system. We have a system where we will settle disputes through litigation, and as long as we ensure that it's quick, fair and independent, I think we can have an alternative system and strengthen APAs, strengthen DRPs and strengthen advanced rulings so it's quick and final. So I would say that will send its own message out once you start respecting the system that we have.
Last comment, Congress is back to India after 17 years, Mumbai next year. Quick thoughts.
It's a wonderful opportunity, and for what I can see, everything is ready and prepared, and I look forward to seeing you there.
And Bollywood stars. Porus, exciting
We'll have
for
to
India.
ask the organizing committee to arrange the stars.
Thanks, Porus. Thank you so much, Manuel.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.